Hello, today we will talk about assessment methods for early academic skills. Here's the objective. We will talk about how to assess academic skills for the purposes of informing program plannings and tracking students' progress. Early academic skills are important because of their relationship with later school success and also because they can be components of critical functional skills for children and adults with disabilities. However, you as a teacher may have challenges to determine which early academic skills are most critical for each child's academic success and independent functioning, and how to effectively assess these skills and how to use assessment data to inform and plan instruction. Early academic skills are typically categorized into the following content areas: literacy, such as alphabet knowledge, concept about print, math, including counting or comparison, science, chemistry or physics, and social studies like history, geography, and economics, etc. While all of these four content areas are relevant to young children, we will focus more on literacy and math today. It's probably because assessment in literacy and math are more common than social studies in sciences. So anyway, we are going to talk more about literacy and math content today. So literacy from birth, young children are exposed to oral or written language in different ways, like singing alphabet songs or playing peekaboo, right? However, these natural exposures are not enough for literacy development. Children must receive instruction on literacy related skills. So, early literacy skills include alphabet knowledge, concepts about print, oral language skills, phonological awareness, reading, and writing. Like literacy, children are naturally exposed to math concepts from a very early age. But in addition to this early natural exposure, children also need instruction in math concepts and skills, including number sense and counting, number relationships and operations, algebra, geometry, measurement, and data analysis. So, like assessment in other developmental areas, when planning assessment of academic skill, you can consider the following questions. These questions and concepts are kind of the summarizations of what we have learned throughout the semester. So, what is the purpose of assessment? Is information needed about a specific child or all children in the classroom? What skills need to be assessed? What stages of learning need to be assessed? What dimensions of behaviors are relevant to the skills being assessed? Does assessment need to be adapted to meet the needs of an individual child? So before you conduct any academic assessment, you have to consider why you have to do the assessment. So you have to consider the purpose of assessment. We already talked about different purposes of assessment, which says the purpose of assessment includes screening, eligibility purpose, program planning, monitoring child progress, and program evaluation. Based on your needs, you can choose the academic assessment. We also talked about different types of assessment. Standardized tests are available for this academic skill as well. So norm reference tests and criteria reference tests are available. Informal assessment, including teacher design tests, observation, or rubrics, are frequently used to measure students' progress in this academic skill. These are the examples of standardized tests available to assess early academic skills. We also need to consider the type of skill being assessed. In many cases in special education, the skills that need to be assessed will be predetermined. For example, the teacher may be required to administer a specific assessment when it is time to review an IEP, so report the progress. In other cases, while teaching, the teacher may notice a student's delay. Then the teacher can measure and assess that delayed area. There are 4 stages of learning. First, acquisition. The student will learn and acquire new skills with intervention strategies or instructions, so the performance of the acquired skill will reach some level, right? That's acquisition. Maintenance. Once the student learned the skill, the student will carry out the skill routinely. For example, let's say my student learned how to perform the core steps of hand washing. Then in the maintenance stage, the student will carry out the skill routinely before lunch or after use of restroom or after artwork, etc., with less intrusive teachers' prompts or assistance. So that's maintenance. With those 2 stages, the student will perform the core steps of skill more fluently or proficiently. That's fluency and proficiency. Then we should see if student can generalize the acquired skill across new settings or people. That's generalization. Even when a child has acquired a new skill, instruction will be needed to promote the generalized or fluent use of that skill. Therefore, it is very important to consider the stages of learning when assessing a child. It is also important to consider the dimension of behaviors or different characteristics of behavior. Types of behaviors are different, right? So you measure the behavior using different methods. Depending on the types of behavior you're assessing, you should choose different methods of data collection. Well, it may be challenging to assess academic skills in children with disability, but there are several strategies that can be used to facilitate assessment. Adaptation to the assessment process can be used to help the child demonstrate the skills being assessed. Like I said before, there are several different informal assessment strategies available to assess academic skill. Um, Teacher design assessment is one of the examples. And informal assessment can take the form of performance assessment, where another directs a child to answer specific questions or perform specific tests, then collects data on the child's answers and performance. Informal assessments can also be authentic assessments. Authentic assessment refers to assessment based on child efforts in actual performance situation, completing real life tasks. So it's a concept, but also the form of assessment. Other informal assessment includes anecdotal records, or checklist, or the child's self-assessment. You can also use running records. Running records are oral reading tests used to assess and analyze reading accuracy. So they should be used only with children who are able to read text. So when teachers have assessment data, they must reflect on assessment data in order to plan activities and instructions. And assessment data should be used to help teachers understand each student's needs and how they can be addressed. So if some of your student or a student needs more help or adaptations, you can provide differentiated instructions to meet all students' learning level and learning needs. We are going to talk more about what is differentiated instruction next semester, but I just want to give you an example and snapshot of differentiated instruction. Differentiated instruction is not complicated things. Simply, you can provide a sufficient number and variety of materials in an activity so children can participate in different ways and accomplish different goals, as you see the example.